particularly welcome this year because I know there's a lot of competition on at this time of the day. So we're very glad to see you here. It's actually described in the book as a panel discussion, but I assure you, you will get a presentation. And I will now promptly hand over. The presentation is going to last about 50 minutes, we think. And so that should leave about 25 minutes or so for the discussion part. Okay, I'm going to hand over now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eleonora Minglieva. I'm from Uzbekistan. On the behalf of the Hornby Scholars 2018-19, let me welcome you to our presentation. So today's presentation focuses on the challenges in a resource-poor context in the Global South and the ways to address them. So, every one of our group members will describe a problem in low-resource context, and the reason why we have selected this topic is because we all come from the developing countries, and and the challenge we describe in this presentation are being faced by teachers in their everyday life. Today's presentation is a great opportunity for us to share the challenges with you. So now my group members will introduce themselves and say what they are going to talk about.
Thank you, Elia. My name is Eloro Ahishati, and I'm from Rwanda, and I will be talking about lack of useful CPDs in rural areas in Rwanda. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Iwan Victoria. I'm from Nigeria, and I'll be talking about helping teachers to conduct assessment and give feedback in their large school classes. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Parvez Hossain, and I'm from Afghanistan. I'll focus on how English is taught at rural schools in the country.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Ahmad, and I'm from Malaysia. I'll be talking about challenges facing young teachers teaching in rural areas.
Hello and good afternoon. I'm Fariha Manzoor from Pakistan, and I'm going to talk about English medium of instruction in the low context and low status schools of Pakistan.
Hello, I'm Morjakole Alex Diko David. I'm from South Sudan. I will be talking about the strategies for engaging learners in a class of 130 students.
Hello, this is Mara Masood, and I'm from Bangladesh. I'm going to talk about addressing the huge inequalities that are existent among the schools in Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Thank you. So now let me outline the structure of our presentations. So we are going to, in our presentations, we are going to provide the information about the low resource context in our countries, and then we will focus on specific issue or problem, after which we will talk about the data that we generated for this presentation, and then we will talk about we will try to suggest some possible ways to overcome this issue of low resource context. So, and each of our group members will present for 5 to 7 minutes, and the presentation will be held one after another, so every group member will come up to another. And after that, we have some time for we will have some time for the discussion of the questions. So enjoy. Thank you so very much. Laurent, please.
Thank you. Like I said, it's Laurent from Rwanda in Central East Africa. And the issue I will talk about, like I said, the lack of useful CPDs in rural areas in this country. it's an issue I tried to explore among some other issues. I picked this one and I wanted to talk about it. And I based on my personal experience as a teacher of English for the past 10 years. And I also talked to some teachers. I will talk about it. You might say, do teachers need CPDs? This is not a question I should ask you because anyway, it's an immediate question, right? It has an answer that everybody can give. But teachers need CPDs. Why? We have issues that are very common in many areas that are growing. Many of them are like large class size, textbooks that are not there, computers, internet, proficiency of English, many changes in education, all of this. There are issues that actually we don't, most of the time, learn in colleges of education how to solve. They don't teach us how to solve these specifically. Now, where should these issues be solved from? Teachers should be helped from where? From CPDs. CPDs would be the best area to help them to solve them. But in Rwanda, rural areas especially, their hands are really tied because of lack of useful. I underlined useful because of the reason I'm going to talk about. I'm not saying that we don't have CPDs in Rwanda. We have them. The Ministry of Education organizes CPDs. British Council, US Department, all of this, they organize CPDs. However, sorry to say this, people from British Council, American Embassy, these CPDs, they don't reflect the reality. I will use some examples to clarify this. Example number one, suppose you organize a CPD and you invite the teachers, you want to train them about, let's see, learner-centered teaching methodology. You have them seated in a room like this. See, everything is like centered to the trainer. See how they are seated, everything. And you are training them to go and talk about learner-centered. Are they centered or it's trainer-centered? You are not reflecting what you want them to go and practice. Another example, you organize the CPDs, you invite the teachers and you take them to in a hotel. Very good setting with all the facilities necessary. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Few number of teachers in a room. Everything is good. But when I'm back teaching, I have hundreds of students, he's talked about it, and no facilities, nothing. Are you reflecting what I need, really? Another example, you organize the CPDs, and there is an expert who is going to train few teachers who are called trainers of trainers. Trainers of trainers will go back in villages to train teachers. The last teachers here, they are going to get, sorry to say it, second-hand information, and they are going to, most of the time, remember, they are trained in 1 or 2 days, and it's over, and you want them to go and practice all the necessary thing in their classrooms. It's not going to have an impact, this especially in a cascaded model. So, all these issues, teachers are thinking about it. In Rwanda, teachers in rural areas tried to find a solution to this. That is communities of practice. You might have heard about it. In Rwanda, what we call communities of practice, they are small groups of teachers from schools of the neighboring neighborhood, the same neighborhood, who get together to share ideas, experiences, success stories, challenges, and how to sort them out. We call them COPs. And they have been initiated by the Association of Teachers, ATER, in 2013. Teachers are trying to work, sharing. I tried to explore then what they are doing. Of course, I knew some because I have been working with them, but I wanted really to ask from their points of view. see what they shared with me. This is an example of one COP meeting. The topic was to discuss about how to teach a text. Maybe one teacher or two or three had this issue. They wanted to ask their colleagues, how can you help me? Please tell me, what can I do? They brought it, is it around the table, square table, this table? So they discussed about it, shared, maybe got tips that can help them back in their classrooms. Another example, our topic was to debate, how to organize a debate in a classroom. Teachers sat together, they organized the debate first, and after they reflected about it and shared the tips that can help them back in their classrooms. My search went on. I asked them then, what really, tell me personally, what are you benefiting from being members of COPs? A teacher told me that their strategies, teaching strategies after joining COPs, they increased, and this helped them to make their teaching easier. And they find COPs really good platforms for exchange, for professionals. Another teacher told me this. It's a COP leader. He started maybe talking on behalf of the group that teachers get connected, connection, and share, plan, lesson plans, materials. It's a good opportunity for them. He personally mentioned that he grew professionally because these days he's being invited in some other schools to give some of the tips he got from COPs. He grew from COP. I went on doing my search. I asked them, do you have challenges? Yeah, of course. Challenge number one, administration. Administrators, sorry. But this is a challenge. Head teachers, education officers at the level of sector, district, they don't understand this. Why? Because it's not an initiative from the Ministry of Education, it's an initiative of teachers. Sometimes they don't allow them to go to attend these meetings. Another challenge, and this is financial constraint. Sometimes they need things related to money. And remember, I told you it has been initiated by the Association of Teachers. The association doesn't have enough resources to support them. In any case, well, I'm also rounding up. COPs seem to be effective bottom-up CPDs, initiatives of teachers. And they are there to fill gaps of teachers, gaps left by academic studies, gaps left by top-down CPDs. Why? Because teachers benefit from sharing experience. They co-think, they co-construct the ideas, they build self-efficacy. And I wanted to talk about making their voices heard. In the morning, the plenary speaker talked about, remember almost the last sentence, just listen to us. Teachers in these COPs, they are heard. Other teachers listen to them. Why? Because most of the meetings we have, the boss is speaking, the expert is speaking, someone at the top is speaking, no one is ready to listen to the teacher. In the COPs, teachers listen to their colleagues, good listeners and good understanders. Anyway, like Samara Machel said, a luta continua, the struggle goes on. Maybe more research should be conducted. Thank you very much.
Now, Vicky will present the next presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so my name is Victoria Ewang from Nigeria. I'll be talking about helping teachers to conduct assessment and give feedback in their large school classes. I believe we are familiar with classroom-based assessments, and I'm very sure that we can relate with the fatigue we get when we teach classes for a long hours. When we teach classes for a long hours, and it can be very, very overwhelming. Now, let's imagine teaching a class full of, within the range of 50 to 80 students. It can really, really get overwhelming. It is on this note that I decided to conduct a survey among 40 teachers of English language in a low-resource context to determine about how they conduct assessments in their large classes. And then I realized that most of them, the classes falls within the range of 40 to 70, 70 to 100, and 100 to 130. Actually, the 100 to 130s are the extreme cases, yeah. But mostly, they fall within the range of 40 to 70. And then when I asked these teachers how they assign grades, this was their responses. One of them responded that mostly they used the formative assessment over a year, which is marked by the teacher, and it is totally up to the teacher to decide the mark. And formative assessment in the Nigerian context is regarded as summative assessment. It doesn't actually give room for students to assess their progress. It determines the performance of the student. And also, another response that struck me was, okay, mostly students are assessed cognitively as allowed by the public school system. Grades are assigned quantitatively and mostly without adequate feedback. Imagine not giving students adequate feedback. How will they be able to know how far they have, progressed in their learning? Okay, and then from the percentage of teachers who responded, I realized that 70% of them do not provide opportunities for the student to assess their progress in learning. And then a few of them responded that they give one-to-one and group feedback. Now, how can teachers develop appropriate assessment strategies in their large classes? Looking at this context of 100 to 130 students in a classroom. So it is on this note that I decided to come up with a suggestion that I think can be workable in this kind of situation or in this kind of context where we have large number of students. And I feel that a suggested countermeasure could be peer assessment. Peer assessment is when teachers allow students to evaluate their selves, okay? Sorry. Now, this peer assessment, by using peer assessment, the teacher will be able to design a rubric. Now, how can the teacher design a rubric for peer assessment? It is when the teacher exposes the students to the rubric at the beginning of the term, okay? The students will see this rubric at the beginning of the term, and the teacher can work collaboratively with the student, okay, to set the guidelines for the assessment. Now, this rubric that I'm proposing for this context would be able to assess the different language skills, the speaking, the writing, the reading, and the listening. And also, engaging students in group work and pair work, and also think, pair, and share would allow for the learners to be able to assess their progress. Now, using peer assessment would also help the teacher to determine and to monitor how far the students have progressed in their learning. And then in the area of giving feedback to these students, the teacher could take note of a common error that they find inherent in the student's grade and also give feedback to the student. And then when students engage in peer assessment, it will give room for them to give feedback, and it will be quick and easy for the student. And the teacher could also adopt group feedback and then written feedback. Most of these teachers do not know about this method of assessment, and I feel it's a workable solution for them in their context. if they are exposed to the different criteria, if they are exposed to rubrics, I feel if these teachers are familiar with this system of assessment, it could help them, carry out their work effectively, and it will give room for the students to assess their progress in learning. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Sorry, my right ear is burning. Stage. What do you say? Stage view. Okay. So once again, good afternoon. I'm Parvez from Afghanistan. So I'll focus on how English is taught in rural schools in my country. And then I'll talk about why it is taught this way. And finally, I'll discuss what to do or what has been done so far. So bear with me, please, till the last. So there are many methods that is dominating our rural schools in the country. So the first method, which is very popular, being used in the classroom, is translation of either sentences or words from Dari to English or from English to Dari. And we also translate texts from English to Dari or Pashto. The second famous method is the teacher comes to the classroom and writes a few words on the blackboard, and then the students have to must write words, use those words in the sentences. And another famous method is read aloud and translate. So it doesn't matter either it is a short story or is it a dialogue. So there is one student in front of the classroom who has a good level of English. So he or she will read and translate to to his or her classmates. So you might think, or I'm sure that you agree with me that there's nothing wrong with translation or reading aloud or using words in sentences. So my only point that I'm making is, yeah, it helps with pronunciation. Reading aloud, translating may help with learning the language. But does it help the student to communicate in the classroom? No. This is our biggest problem. We know so many words, let's say 1,000 words, but we don't know how to communicate with those words. And for this presentation, in order to know more why the teachers are teaching the same, translation, reading aloud, so I interviewed 2 school teachers and 3 teacher educators, and they said, the school teachers, they said that they have 30 minutes for delivering a lesson, which is not enough time for a language lesson. And they also need to teach 2 pages in 30 minutes for from the course book. And they teach from Saturday up to Thursday, 6 days a week, which leaves them not enough time to prepare for a lesson. And in addition, there are a large number of students in the classroom, more than 50 up to 70. Well, in my classmates, I had something like 75 classmates in the classroom. And the teacher educators, they said that the majority of school teachers in the rural areas, they have low level of English. That's why they rely on translation, read aloud. And they are not familiar with modern approaches of teaching methods, especially with communicative language teaching. And they are also not familiar with managing large classes. And some of English teachers, they're not English teachers. So they are biology teachers. They just know a little bit English, so they cover English lesson. And they, in some schools, there are only 1 English teacher in the entire school. The last point was very shocking to me. So they are not covering English in a few rural schools, because if you know English, it is a threat to life. It causes life danger if you know English in a few rural schools. So far, there has been done so many things to solve this problem. One of the biggest example is the British Council for Schools project, and I'm a member of this project. It started in 2018. So what do we do within English for Afghan, within English for schools? We level test the English teachers, and after knowing their levels, we give them a 9-month of English language upgrade to help them to move one C4 level. And after that, we have teacher training for them for 3 months. And when they finish the 1-year program with us, so after that, we observe their classes and give them feedback to help them with their continuous professional development. And this is the project's goal by 2020. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Parvez. Hello, everyone. All right, my name is Muhammad Fitri bin Ahmad. You can call me Muhammad, and I'm from Malaysia. So today I'll be talking about understanding personal and professional challenges facing teachers, young teachers, when sent to teach in rural primary school. So this topic actually resonates very much with me, as 5 years back, I was sent to a rural school in Pahang, Malaysia, but not as rural as those participants I have. So this study is not to validate my own experience, but look in a larger scale and to understand in depth, what are the reality of the young teachers facing when teaching in rural areas. So, for the purpose of the initial study, I conducted an interview with 2 teachers, asking them these questions. So what are the common challenges facing you guys when you teach in rural areas, okay? But also for the purpose of this presentation, I was tasked to make it a little bit more interactive. So, IATEFL, I'll ask you this question before I reveal the answer. So what do you think are the common challenges facing? So maybe this group, for about 30 seconds, think about the personal challenges that the teachers face. And this group over here, professional challenges. I'm not that mean, I'll give you some hint. So these are the pictures. Okay, 30 second-ish, all right? Okay, go. Personal, professional. All right, thank you guys. I would love to help to give you more time, but we don't have the luxury. I'll go to this group. All right, be one personal challenges that you think we face.
Okay, we were thinking about being far away from the family and friends, being isolated.
Very good question. Very good answer. Okay, one from here, Laura, maybe.
We were thinking about isolation also from being able to connect in a community of practice with other teachers. So as a new teacher, it would be very hard to be on your own with the large classes and the lack of resources and all of that.
Wonderful, very good answer. Okay, let us see whether that actually emerged from these 2 teachers, yeah? All right. So the personal challenges, I found out 4 common themes. Yeah, the first one is the language barrier. All right. So some of our teachers, we have Malay as our native language, but these students in the rural areas, they use ethnic language, which is very far from us. And second one is cultural differences, of course. The third one is facilities, yep, and being away from family, check. And professional syllabus and curriculum, teaching materials, teacher training, workload, CPD, support, and mentoring, okay? These are the 8 emerging themes from these 2 interviews. So I want to know more, all right? 2 people is not good enough. So I conducted a survey, all right? Sorry, turn C. Oops, sorry. Turn C. And for 24 teachers actually responded to my survey. It's a multiple choice question and an open-ended question. So I asked them to tell me a little bit more in words. So this is the result. So the top 2 personal challenges out of the 4 teams is language barrier, all right? So the teachers say that it's very common that they don't speak English at home. English has no importance to them, right? They don't actually go to secondary school, right? So, but what the teacher did, I also asked them. So they say that in the classroom they use a lot of gestures, and they even go to the extent that they learn the students' language in order to teach English. And then the second top challenge is that the facilities, of course. And we have no steady electricity, do not have electricity. And water is available, but not suitable for drinking and cooking. I do not know where they get water from there, okay? But, well, nothing much has been done, yeah? It's in the process by the government, of course, but I asked them, like, what are you concerned? Their concern is that the safety, yeah? Because of the, to get to the school, they have to go, because of no facilities, they have to go through the river. And Sarawak, being one of the most populous state with crocodiles, it's very endangering, life-threatening to them. And also financial burdens, yeah? Not only that these teachers are from West Malaysia, they have to travel by flight to East Malaysia, it is also that they have to travel like on another small planes to get to their school. So like it's very costly for them. Okay. The professional challenges, I'm going to present just top 4. The first one is actually poor learning environment. Of course, like they don't see the importance of English, and other students mock, other students when they speak in English. So, and the second one is that syllabus and curriculum. We have a standardized curriculum in Malaysia, so the teachers are saying that the syllabus is too high, even for my 12-year-old students. And the third one is truancy. So the attendance rates in these rural schools are also very poor. But of course, we cannot blame the students, yeah? They are coming from far away and have to travel for hours too. Some of my students, you have to travel by boat for an hour to get to school. So I got ready from my place for about 20 minutes by car because that's where I live, but they live in a village across the river, so they have to go by boat, and that takes them an hour each day. So some just not motivated enough to come. And of course, I'm quite surprised that they don't actually put this number 1, workload, yeah? So little time left to teach the students. There's so many things to do. And in these rural areas, we have limited number of teachers. We have 14 teachers. So, but a lot of work. So there's not enough time to teach. So, but what has been done? Because we're talking about addressing the challenges. So what has been done? And I would say that teachers in rural areas, they do wonders. They do a lot of effort. And in particular, this one teacher I want to share today, like how he addresses. He is teaching in a rural area in Sarawak. And so he really adopt 21st century classroom on his own effort. So he handles this Facebook page, Little Lesson by Little Chucky. And very recently, he's being listed as top 50 21st century teacher in Malaysia. So he's running for the top 30. Maybe he'll go to the top 10. So yeah, he's a great teacher. I can't talk much about him, but if you're really interested in what he's doing, so you can go to that Facebook page. All right, and of course, the syllabus is a problem, but Malaysia is doing their best. So we try to do training. CFR is a very good tool. So we do training, methodological adaptation to revise things and to adapt things and making it more suitable for teachers in rural areas. All right, attendance best practice. A lot of schools are doing their best practice to actually attract students to come to school. And this particular school actually won the best practice award among all the rural schools in Malaysia in 2018. And what they did is actually to the extent that they do ice cream day. For the first month, they actually give ice cream to students every single day. And then, yes, they go to that extent, yeah. And actually, after a year, the attendance rate goes up to 98%. And they don't have to do that again on the second year because it has become a habit of the students, So you do it a little bribe in the beginning, but that later it become a culture. So, yep, and also to settle the problem of the workload. Yeah, I'll end it there. Yeah, the Ministry of Education has come up with this statement, and it's like, well, it gives us hope. So this is what our Minister of Education said: no more clerical work for teachers beginning next year. So yeah, let's hope that happens. Okay, so I'll end it there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fariha from Pakistan, and I'm going to talk about English medium of instruction in low-status schools of Pakistan. So, in 2009, English medium of instruction was introduced in province of Punjab by the provincial government. Now, this was actually done because of two main reasons. The number one reason was to introduce uniformity in the medium of instruction in Punjab, and the other one was to make the youth of Punjab more inclusive on global level. So, whatever they had visualized, it could not be realized because the desired outcomes could not be met. And the reason behind that was the level of the teachers, language level of the teachers. Actually, I talked, for this presentation, I talked to various teachers in order to know why this policy wasn't yielding the results that were actually expected. And I came upon the following conclusions. The policy was a top-down policy. When the policy was being designed, it did not consider all the stakeholders. And when it was implemented, no teacher trainings were provided to the teachers. So the teachers who were going to teach in English language, they had themselves studied in Urdu language, and they were really facing so many problems because of this major shift in language. So it resulted in the resistance from the teachers. Also, one of the main important points was the students weren't prepared, because the students previously used to study every subject in Urdu, and now they had to quickly change their medium of instruction to English. And the only input that they had of English was in schools, and that was like 3 to 4 hours per week. So when I interviewed the teachers and asked about their opinions about this language shift, there were some teachers who were really in the favor, as Ms. Guru, who is a primary school teacher. She said, I think it is necessary. Students need to learn English because English is our official language. When students enter professional colleges, they have to study in English, which create problems for them. Why not prepare them from day one? And then there were teachers who were not really in the favor. So one of the teachers thought that when other countries are actually using their own national languages to teach other subjects, why couldn't we do that? That would be normal. And there was a very strong point that came from another teacher who said it is a wrong move by the government. It is causing confusion among students as well as teachers. So from this situation, the problem that arises concerns the successful outcomes of English medium instruction in Pakistan. So in order to deal with this, British Council actually came forward and tested 2008 primary school teachers from 18 different districts of Punjab using their aptitude language test. And the results were really alarming, and the findings have been given in this chart. The teachers who were older, actually 80% of those teachers fell in A0 category, in A0 level of CEFR frame. And then the younger teachers were a little better, as we can see the teachers who fell in the group of 21 to 35 years of age. 40% were A0, 36% were A1, 20 A2, and 4% B1. This suggested that the teachers they really lacked the knowledge of English language teaching, English language actually, and they could not communicate and understand in English. So, PEALY was suggested as a possible solution to this. Now, what is PEALY? PEALY is a training And it stands for Punjab Education and English Language Initiative, and it was designed by British Council in collaboration with Quaid-e-Azam Academy for Educational Development. It uses the cascade training model. British Council hired the freelance trainers, teacher trainers, who were responsible for training the expert trainers. And those expert trainers were actually selected from the education department, and they were subject specialists. And then they were in charge of training the primary school teachers and the head teachers. The main aim of the training is to promote student-centered and activity-based learning. We are using English language. Now, one of the interesting things is, in the context I'm talking about, the classroom goes like this. That it is most of the time teacher to student, and the students are always passive listeners in the classroom. So I think this training is a very innovative training in our context. So till now, 123,000 teachers have been trained since 2013, and PLE plans to provide training to 250,000 primary school teachers by the end of June 2020. I have also interviewed a few teachers who have actually attended this training. One of my colleagues, my ex-colleagues, Ms. Beena, she was trained as an expert trainer. She says that it was very helpful training for the teachers of all the subjects, especially sciences. Student teachers were made familiar with common English sentences used in classrooms. So then there are 2 more teachers who were trained because they were like primary school teachers. So they think that after the training, their lessons became more engaging and their students started interacting in the classrooms. Now, based on all this information, what is the future of EMI and PLE in Pakistan? So I think, I think, this is my opinion. So English medium of instruction, as it is like only a decade-old move in Pakistan. So it has to wait for some time in order to properly integrate into the education system and in order for people to accept it openly. And also, it needs some trainings like PLE. So the teachers would be equipped properly with the language knowledge, so it would be easier for them and they will feel more open towards this language change. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I will now bring you to the classroom context. I'm called Morjakole Alex. And I'm not good at this thing. Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm going to look at student engagement in large classroom context. And my name is there, Morjakole Alex. I've come from South Sudan. I would like to make the point that learner engagement in a classroom is a very big problem that teachers face. And not only a problem faced by teachers, but also by students. So I try to look, this is actually the nature of our classes. The nature of our classes is here. You have up to 150 in some cases. We have our normal and the best range is 40 to 50. That's what we are used to. It's the best for us. But we also have situations of 70 to 180 students, 130 students. So, for example, last year, I taught in a class of 130 students. So learner engagement becomes a very big problem there. And you can see from here that they are using desks, and each desk takes 3 students. And then there's no space for movement. So this is to do with role play and the rest of the things. I don't know where you put them, how you'll use them. So then I tried to find out what some teachers think. But then my efforts did not go far because internet connection is also one of our challenges. So if you tell me, if you talk about like lessons which require use of internet, I think it can't work in this context. So I tried, but it can't. I did not succeed. So for the purpose of this presentation, I had to reflect back on my own work. So as a result of this, I would like to make a disclaimer that I am not presenting a data-led presentation. So what are the problems here, the challenges, the blocks? One is limited resources, and in this place, in this particular presentation, it is space, especially space for movement, not only for students, but also for the teacher. Then we also have issues like temptation to focus only on those, okay, somebody call it the zone of, present. And then we also have issues of, it is very hard to work to zero down to the individual student. And we also have a problem of highly teacher-centered method of teaching. So these are things, when you find yourself in that classroom, definitely these are the challenges that will present themselves to you. So then, my belief as a teacher is that a classroom lesson is a party for the students, not a party for the learner, not for a party for the teacher. So it's a party. So as a teacher, if you find yourself like that, you found like yourself in a situation where you are supposed to cross a stream and there's no way, but you will have to try to find it, ways out. So what strategies did I use? The strategies that I use, for example, for group work, I said earlier that each desk takes 3 students and sometimes 4. So that desk forms already a group, because you cannot think of saying, okay, move from here, there, because it's going to inconvenience. So that desk, which has 3 to 4 students, already makes a group. So in that desk, we can have intergroup interactions. For example, this desk will interact with the next desk. And then we also have joint story writing. You construct a story together, because I may not have time to look at your story, and his story, and his story. So write a single story, construct a story together. So that is about group work. And then another strategy which I used was story sharing, and sharing of personal experiences. What challenges students to go, and after teaching a lesson, after teaching some content, and then they would go out, and then the following day they have to come and report something which they discovered that was very interesting to them, and that they should have learned something from there. And the effect of that was that it kept the students actually listening, because I'm interested in listening to her story, I'm interested in your story. What is new that you bring? Another technique, and I should say it's the best method, which sometimes even students would remind me to use, is pass it on to your savior strategy. The pass on to your savior strategy is, I have a question as a teacher. I gave the question to the student. When the student tries, she does not give the right, the best answer. Instead of asking her to do more, or instead of me asking this student, I will ask the student to ask or to appoint anyone to help. So the question, oh God. Yeah, it's like that. The teacher asks the student, and then when the student does not answer correctly or rightly, and the student has the responsibility of appointing anyone. So in this process, the students are kept aware, everybody is awake, because at any time the student can say, Lawrence, please help me, okay, at any moment. So this was the strategy which I came to love most, and the students themselves even love it most. And I think I earned a name because of that. Help, pass it to your savior. Another strategy which I also use and kept the students very busy is scavenger hunt. And I would like to admit also here that I modified that method beyond recognition by the person who authored it, because I have to change it to my context. So somebody asked me, how did you use scavenger method? Did they have to go outside and collect something? Well, it was a kind of a cycle. Like if tomorrow we're going to look at letter writing, and then maybe say tomorrow we're looking at informal letters, and then in your group of 3 or 4, one of you is going to look at letter of invitation. One is going to look at letter of, for example, request, and then letters of like congratulations, and all those sorts of, letters. So each one will go and look for something, and as you go, look for the features of that letter, how it is written, the language that is used, and tomorrow, when we come back to our lesson, we begin by identifying those students who did the same task. They will sit outside, they will compile what they found about the task given to them, and this is, the hand in this case is like going now home, doing it at home, getting the ideas, getting the information that the ideas. And then, so when you come back, you sit together with somebody who had the same task with you, you discuss what you found, and then you give a presentation. So the presentation, during presentation, you'll have one student who will present, your findings relating to that small aspect that you looked at. After that, we will have a wrap-up activity, a final discussion. Then some strategies, some activities which are found to disengage learners was, one is activities that are more of a lower level, because our students are not like, I have seen here that sometimes students at secondary are still young, but we have some students who are already 17, 18, but they are still at secondary. So if you use activities that are fit only for the young ones, they will not be interested. So they need challenge that is at their level. Next is lengthy explanation of metalinguistic concepts. If you go on to talk about, like this is a noun, this is how it goes, and then you try to explain it, how it is used in a sentence. If you take long there, your students will sleep. Another thing is also reading long text. If the text is long, the students may read only 1, 2, 3, maybe the first 2 paragraphs, the rest, they go and sleep. So it becomes very challenging. So I think these are strategies which came because you find yourself there, but you want to move forward. So from here, I've just realized something. I've learned something from after thinking about all this, I've realized that what is important is believing yourself as the solution. If you find yourself in that context, you come to terms with yourself and believe that you are the best to do what is needed for the students. Another thing is a feeling of responsibility. Instead of saying, why can't the school administration change this? Why is the government doing this? You feel it is your responsibility to move forth with these students. It's you and not somebody. And then also a determination to move with the class forth, which I've already talked about. So something which I would like to conclude with is that when I underwent my teacher training, I did not hear anything to do with large classrooms. Never. I did not hear anything to do with low resource context. Never. I've been a teacher training of late, but then I saw nothing in the content that talked about large classrooms. So then, the last question I'm asking here is, how can we prepare the novice teacher, the new teachers who are going to enter and going to face this? Yes. So I think this is something that we will, if we can find answers to this, it would be very good. Thank you very much.
Hi, Hi, this is Marwa. So as I said, I'm going to talk about addressing the huge inequalities in resources among schools in Dhaka, Bangladesh. So the inequalities that are existent are many. There are inequalities in resources, in facilities, in infrastructure, and students sometimes do not even have the educational resources that they need to study in their class. So there are several types of schools in Dhaka. The first one is English medium schools. So English medium schools are for the elite class of the society. So there are 71 English medium schools in Dhaka, and these are privately funded, and 52 English version schools, which are similar. And then there are these government and semi-government schools in Dhaka. So there are around 10,000 primary, secondary, and higher secondary schools. And these schools are mainly for the middle class population of the society. And then there are some schools that are known as slum schools. So not all the slum children who live with their parents in slums in Dhaka, not all of them get access to education. Only 53% of them have access to education. And even then, there is only one school for every 128 children living in slums, and one secondary school for every 678 children living in slums. And then for the rest 47% of the slum children, they have no access to education at all. So the inequalities in resources can be seen by naked eye. So these are some typical pictures of English medium schools. So they are rich in facilities, in resources, in infrastructure. And these are some typical pictures of slum schools. So as you can see, they're poor in resources, facilities, and as well as infrastructure. So there are some NGOs that are working for this cause. They're trying to minimize the inequalities that are existent. So some of the organizations are BRAC Slum Schools, ActionAid UK, Jago Foundation, Children's Hope, Teach for Bangladesh, and World Bank Group. These are all well-established and renowned institutions, organizations. However, I believe that it is important to do something on an institutional level to address this problem. And I had the opportunity of being involved with such a project. It was, I'm sorry. It was a school-based project, and it was neither supported nor funded by the school itself or any other organization. It was carried out solely by school children, parents, and the teachers. And it addressed slum school children's need of educational resources. So they didn't try to solve all the problems, like the problems related to facilities, resources, or infrastructure. They only focused on the educational needs of the children, like stationery, books, etc. So this project is known as the Shoebox Project. So this project was initiated by the former vice principal of Oxford International School, which is one of the topmost English medium international schools in Dhaka. And although I was involved with this project and I worked for this project, but for this presentation, I interviewed him on Facebook Messenger, and he was given a few questions about this project, Mr. James Arthur, and he answered all the questions enthusiastically and elaboratedly, and he also shared a lot of pictures and documents. So he didn't want to call it a donation project. Rather, he said it was kind of an initiative of partnership between two types of schools, English medium schools and slum schools. And also he didn't like the term slum schools. He would rather call it working for underprivileged children. So it started in 2016, and it was initiated by Mr. James Arthur, former Vice Principal of Oxford International School, and the partnership was done with Mr. Rafiqul Islam Rafiq, Principal and founder of Islamic School called Turab Vidya Niketan, and it is situated in Dhaka. So the purpose of this project was to help underprivileged Islamic school children to address the problem of lack of educational resources, to contribute sustainably, to help and support the community, and to create a genuine impact in the lives of these children by addressing the problem of inequalities. So there was some initial resistance on the part of the Islamic school because the principal of the Islamic school thought that Mr. Arthur went there to steal his children, steal his best children, because he didn't have any idea about the social standings of both the schools. So then further explanations had to be given about the differences that were there in the social standings between the two groups of students. And after that, he was convinced, and the partnership was initiated. So the next step was to invite students and parents to contribute. So the purpose of this shoebox project had to be explained to students that it was not a donation project, it was rather helping children, underprivileged children, to have some educational resources so that they could continue their studies at school. So the contents, so the shoebox was supposed to hold some contents, educational resources like stationery and books that had to be explained as well. And parents and students were encouraged through posters and leaflets. So the shoeboxes were there on time. Students started bringing shoeboxes, a lot in number. But there were some challenges. So some shoeboxes contained unusable items. Some of them contained incredible amounts of items all in one box. So all of them had to be taken apart and repackaged. So it required the teachers to stay at school beyond working hours. And finally, everything was prepared. So in 2016, they took the shoe boxes to Turab Vidya Niketan, and after a cultural program, the students and teachers themselves distributed one shoe box to every slum children. And about the future, the purpose was to create awareness among students and parents so that they come to know about the state of these slum children, how they study, the state of the slum schools, because many of them didn't even know about the schools. Also, the aim was to help students to grow up as empathetic individuals so that when they grow up, they remember this and they also become willing to do something for this issue. And also the purpose was to get some attention from the government, national and international charitable organizations so that this project could be supported, or the organizations themselves could launch some other project to address the needs of these children. So it was a sustainable project because it continued in 2017, it continued in 2018, and in 2018, in the same way, the children gathered the boxes, they took it to Turab Vidya Niketan, and after a cultural program, the students themselves handed these shoe boxes to each of the slum child. And that actually proves that this project was to a certain extent sustainable. So whether it is a success story or not, that's up to you to decide. And that is all for me. So thank you so much. Thank you on the behalf of all the Hornby scholars. So thank you.
So well done, guys. You certainly took to heart my advice last night about not hurrying, which is great. It does mean, though, that we've just got the 10 minutes left for questions. So can I invite all the scholars to come up to the front? And if you'd just like to address your question either to the whole group or to individuals, and I'll pass the mic along.
Thank you. I'm Marcos Ngora from Côte d'Ivoire, a Chivining scholar from the University of Bournemouth. My question is for Rwanda. I'm really interested in your COP, and you raised the problem with the government, saying that COP is a creation of your teachers association, and they are having a problem with the government. How are you planning to address this?
Actually, it's not a problem that they are against each other. It's like misunderstanding. Okay, this administration, head teachers, officers at different levels, don't really understand the benefits. Why are you going there? What are you going to do? Even if the Association of Teachers has got a status, a legal status, but still some people don't understand. Even the teachers of English, some of them don't understand benefits. You know, in different areas, talking about associations of teachers, groups, teacher communities, some teachers don't understand. What about other administrators? See? So that is a slight misunderstanding, and then when they are looking for permission, they don't allow them, some of them.
I have a kind of recipe because I'm a founding member of the National English Language Teachers Association in my country. We try to build a relationship with the government. We try to explain to them what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then now they understand clearly that we are doing their job for free. Yes, because we have partners. My former association, IATEFL, won the IATEFL Project Scholarship. We train some teachers for free. The government is to support this, but we are doing it with our partners. Now they understand very clearly that we are working on their side. The Minister of Education is with us. Anytime we want to meet her, doors are open. When we organize an event, authorization are given to teachers from the ministry, asking school to release all the teachers to take part in the event. So my advice is to think of building a kind of relationship with your ministry to explain to them what you're doing so that they could let you do what you're doing and even support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about hogging it on this row, but it's a question from Mohammed. Are the teachers who go to the countryside, are they sent there for a limited period? I mean, is it something that the government expects every young teacher to do, or are they volunteers blazing a trail heroically?
First of all, it's not volunteerism. You don't have a choice, yeah? So once you graduated, primary school teachers in Malaysia are recruited by the Institute of Teacher Education, where they got like sponsors to study degree for 5 years, yep, plus the foundation. So after that, you don't have any choice. You'll be sent anywhere or any school that needs you. And it has not been a policy where there is a fixed number. So I was there for 5 years, asked for transfer a few times, I didn't get, you know. It depends. It depends on the needs and everything. So yes, no fixed time. Could be forever.
Wonderful job. Really interesting to see all of those contexts juxtaposed. I was wondering about the cascade trainer, because we saw initially it's a little dubious, then we saw it sort of promoted. So I was wondering if you could kind of cross-reference each other in terms of that as a professional development model in these low-resource contexts.
Maybe I'll start cascading. I'll say that most teachers in Malaysia, you know, like who are sent for training, or from the urban schools, because it's very difficult to get teachers from the rural school to get out of the school. If it's a 2-day course, the teacher will take like 4 days, 1 day for traveling, or sometimes 5 days. So it's not like, and then also say that teachers in the rural areas, they are at the very end of the cascading training. Sometimes they don't actually get it. Okay, so that's from my point of view. Someone else want to add?
So from my context, I'll say because there aren't many teacher trainers within the government education department of Punjab, the provincial level, so they had to hire the freelance teacher trainers. Then, because they have to reach a larger number of students, because the problem was throughout the province, and there are so many teachers working in that education department. So in order to reach all of them, it was very difficult to directly do that. So they actually, like from different districts, they selected from every district, they select few subject specialists, and then they'll train them as expert trainers. So that was comparatively easier to reach a larger audience and a larger number of teachers. Yeah.
As you can hear, they said it's still a problem, all right? So maybe we are not trying to promote it because they were talking about stories that happened. That's what happened. But I personally, someone who has attended such kind of trainings, and I know what happened to me, I can testify that it didn't work well. It didn't work well. So even if it happened, like in the story they told us, but it didn't work well. So we are not going to say that Hornby scholars promoted the cascaded model.
I want to add this thing now. As I said, it is easier to reach a larger number of audience, but there's also one problem here, I think, that I felt. Well, I was interviewing the teachers, primary school teachers, when I was interviewing them, and when I was interviewing the expert trainers. When the expert trainers were trained, they knew the aims really properly, and they could actually, they understood the training. They were their performance was really good when they trained and when they got training. But as it reached down to the teachers, most of them I saw could not see the purpose of that training. So here I can see there was some problem with that thing, because as it was coming down the steps, something was lost there. So yeah.
Perhaps time for one last question, quick one.
Thank you. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I was wondering about the appetite of the teachers themselves for learning, improving their English, getting training in English language teaching. Is it something that they want to do you find generally, or is it another burden in already very difficult circumstances?
So from my experience, so far, we found them very interesting through our programs, interested in learning English. The level of their achievement shows that they are very interested. Their classroom engagement shows that they are very interested in learning and developing an English language. So last year, we had something like 750 aptis tests from our school teachers. And the end of their program, which happened some months ago, it showed a quite good level of English from them, and it showed a very good achievement through English for schools in Afghanistan.
Well, I think regarding that question, teachers, especially in my context, are very much interested in improving their language proficiency. I remember participating in a teacher training program in 2017, and the training was for early literacy and numeracy. And then that training was basically methodology based. But then the teachers said, Alex, we thought you were coming to teach us English language. We thought you were coming to improve us. So I think it depends on the context. But in my context, teachers are very much interested in improving their language proficiency. Thank you.
If I can make, okay, in addition, information. Teachers are interested. I was interested to attend this, but the way these training sessions are conducted should be changed. That's why I still emphasize on my point. Let's go back to the grassroots, promote teachers from there where they are, and bring them up, and we can do that instead of bringing things from up there. Thank you very much.
So from my context, I'll say it's more about the comfort level and the comfort level and the difficulty, because those teachers who are more comfortable now in their jobs and everything, they a little bit resist. They would still resist this change. But yeah, as I see from the younger teachers who are now being recruited or who have been in the job like for the 5 years, something like that, so they are more open towards this thing. They want to learn language. They want to attend teacher trainings on different things in order to improve their teaching. So it depends on that thing as well. And if I see from my students, I actually see a desire to learn new languages in them as well. Although it's very difficult from the context that I come from, but it is, yeah, they are like they want it to do, yeah.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to bring this to a close. I'd just like to say that, this is it's a very proud day for the Hornby Trust. We have a new president of IATEFL, a Hornby, ex-Hornby scholar. The first plenary speaker today was a Hornby, ex-Hornby scholar. And I think you guys have also done the Hornby Trust proud. And who knows, one day you may also be speaking in the big hall. So could we have a final round of applause, please?